Ape Escape 1 actually did get a remake at one point.
Yes.
Ape Escape on the Loose for the PSP. This remake is tragic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's a fully graphical, like from the ground up remake, and it actually looks amazing for the PSP, and it's really cool to see a modern take on the original Ape Escape.
Yes.
The problem:
Dun, dun.
Ape Escape is a series that was designed to showcase the DualShock, the two dual analogs
Yes.
sticks. What does the PSP not have?
Two dual analog
Yes.
sticks.
So the entire point of the Ape Escape's gameplay completely lost in this remake.
Yep.
So instead of using the sticks to use the weapons, you instead have button presses, and it's very imprecise and not nearly as fun.
Aw.
Which is tragic because this remake is really nice. Like everything
Yeah.
else is so high quality. And fortunately, this is a remake that should have been a Vita game
Yeah.
because
It had dual.
hey guys, I'm Bill, a one-time Instagram blogger and now a podcaster.
And I'm Alex, the chaotic neutral,
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast
a brother-sister duo,
that talks about gaming.
and also anime.
And don't forget the collecting, or sometimes.
Ah, forget it. We're just a nostalgia podcast at this point.
But anyways, guys, thanks for joining us as we discuss the games that shaped us. So, how you been? Okay, Alex is a mute today, I guess. So,
Ow! I hit myself in the
it's
face
been a
with the
while
pillow.
since we recorded last time. Well, we did an episode before this, but we didn't really talk about what we've been doing in a while because we've been busy.
Yes.
Work's evil sometimes.
Yes.
So yeah, how you been?
I've been good. I can't remember when the last time we recorded was for like context of how things have been going.
Oh, that was the collab we did with Jerry
When was that?
like 3 weeks ago.
Well, it's February, and it feels like February's almost over too, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Years are flying by.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Work has been busy. I bought a Jenga set, a big old Jenga set,
You
which I
mentioned
talked
that.
about yesterday, but I'm real excited about it.
Yep. You've been watching
bought-
a lot of One Piece.
Yeah, I just love One Piece. I bought some anime figures. Let's see, since the last time we talked about it, I don't know. I bought an Usopp and Brook figure.
You also got your two from your new favorite show.
Yeah. So from One Piece, I got Brook, like this cool one of Brook where his ghost is like popping out of his skeleton, which I love, and he's in a Soul King outfit. And then for Usopp, I got this one where he's really tiny compared to all my other figures, but I do enjoy it. Sorry, I felt a hiccup coming. And then I got two figures from Welcome to Demon School, Remakes, which is slowly becoming one of my favorite shows. It's not One Piece, but it's actually really high up there now. And I got one of Aruma and I'm brain farting on her name right now. Shoot.
Well, anyways.
The green-haired one, which I am brain farting on her name, but she is a wonderful little character.
Yeah.
It's gonna bug me if I don't. Oh, Clara. Sorry. I really love that show. It's really good. I wish I could collect the manga for it, but I guess
There is
there's
no manga right now.
English, like official English translation. So
Yeah.
womp womp to me, I guess. It's all fan translated, so I'll have to find a sketchy website to read it.
Lovely.
But
Yeah, but other than that, I've been I haven't really watched a lot of anime. I caught up on I finished Spy Family, so
nice.
we'll be revisiting that one shortly.
Woo!
Also, I've been playing. I finished my 17th playthrough of Persona 4 Golden
Good job.
because I like that game too much. Priestess Arcana is best Arcana.
Yep. You got your propaganda.
Yep. Other than that, I've been collecting. Actually collecting updates.
Yeah.
I actually made the trip out because I had to go home for a little bit to get a exercise bike. And I stopped by Bowser's Basement. Shout out to John.
Hmm.
Uh, one of the best retro game stores in like the Massachusetts, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I stopped by there on the way because I haven't been in forever, and I had a gift card. Our wonderful mother got me for Christmas, and so I went in there, and honestly, Bowser's Basement, that store is, you go there just for the experience alone because I love that store. It's so calming and kind in there. The
Yeah.
employees are great. The owner, John, is like one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet.
Mm.
And so while I was there, I was kind of searching, and collecting's tough now because I just have pretty much everything I'd really want that's affordable. But I was looking through the case, and I love to look through PSP and DS games because that's like one of my favorite systems to collect for, just because they're so forgotten these days.
Yeah.
And I was looking through the PSP games, and I saw this RPG that I'd like never heard of before. It had this like weird name. It was like, God, what was it called?
It was called Tilly is the best cat in the world. Sorry.
It was called Mimana? Something Chronicle. It was published by Axis, and it's not a great game review-wise from what I've heard, but I saw it and it looked cool. I also found Virtual Fighter Remix, like the slipcase, like promotional version, which was kind of neat. And then the two big pickups I found were the two Izuna games, which I dropped $300 on.
Nice.
Because they're both really rare. They're mystery dungeon style, like roguelike RPGs. They both kind of like are considered cult classics, and they didn't sell particularly well from what I've heard, which is why they're very rare these days. But I scored both of those, which I was super hyped for.
Yeah.
And I got to see Bowser's Basement again, which was great because it's so hard. It's hard to get there nowadays just because it's so far away. But other than that, unfortunately, we lost our pet cat recently too.
Yeah, we lost little Trixie. Our cat we had growing up. It's really our mom's cat.
Yeah.
But little Trixie.
16 years old was she?
2007 to 2023. So
yeah, so I think she was 16.
She was an old girl, and she lived a very happy life, and unfortunately,
I think she just age got her.
Yeah, she just,
I just feel bad though because like that cat was like everything to our family.
So.
And her sister is so depressed now, which makes it harder.
It's harder. So everyone just give a little prayer for little Trixie. But she's happy because she has some friends up there waiting for her, like Bob and Booley,
Her old cats.
So she's not alone, but it was a sad couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Definitely was.
It was a little rough. It's kind of one of the reasons why we didn't record last weekend.
Yeah,
it was just
depressing, and it just weren't in the mood, and it was definitely a rough couple of weeks. Like I think anyone losing a pet in their life, it's tough.
Yeah. Also, the Nintendo Direct happened recently, and they put a lot of too many RPGs. I don't have time for this shit. But also, we got Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games on the Switch store now,
that's cool.
Which is really cool. The Game Boy Advance is hidden behind the expansion pass, unfortunately, so you're gonna have to pay extra for those.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's worth it, honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so lots happened recently. But I guess moving on, we do have a topic for this episode, because we are a gaming podcast, supposedly.
What? We're a podcast? That's where I go.
What do you think we've been doing for the past 2 years?
I didn't. I thought this was just us hanging out.
Kind of is, but
shit.
So yeah,
we're a podcast.
Our topic for today's episode is video game remakes.
Hey, I know what those are.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. So a video game remake is a very fascinating.
It's not a remaster.
Yeah, so I guess we should point that out. There is a lot of differences between remake, remaster, and re-release. A re-release
or port.
Port is just taking a game and putting it on something else. So I'd say a port is taking a game and putting it on something of equal hardware.
Yeah.
So you're essentially moving it from one piece of hardware to another.
One piece?
No. But so a remaster, a re-release is just taking the same game and putting it on another platform as well.
Yeah.
Or like re-releasing it later on.
Yeah.
At a lower price, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A remaster is taking an old game and putting it on modern hardware, but not changing it up at all.
Yeah.
And then a remake. So remakes are a bit complicated, but a remake is essentially taking a game and remaking it from the ground up.
Yes.
How much of a remake it is, that's where we'll get into.
Yeah.
But I guess before we start, I want to preface my thoughts on remakes. I feel like remakes are an interesting thing in gaming because there are a lot of old games that needed help.
Yeah.
But to me, I've always had the feeling on remakes that the games that need remakes the most never get remakes. And the games that always get the remakes never need them.
Yeah.
And it's always a complicated thing like that because popular games always get remakes, but sometimes said popular game does not deserve a remake.
Yeah.
So
or it just didn't need one because it only came out like 2 years ago. Yeah. For one game, I know in particular.
Well, that wasn't 2 years ago. That was like a 10-year gap still. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll get to that later.
Shoot.
But anyways, so yeah, remakes are a complicated thing. So I guess also we should get into like the differences of certain remakes. Like some remakes are just straight up, it's the same game, just looks nicer.
Yeah.
Fixed up some problems with it. Then there's some remakes that are borderline just new games.
Yeah.
Like the Final Fantasy VII remake that's happening right now. That is literally a new game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess remakes go back pretty far, like especially with old arcade conversions, which were probably the earliest example of remakes. Because a lot of times when you convert an arcade game to like a console or a different platform, it would be basically a completely new game that you'd have to remake from the ground up. Sometimes it would actually be more of a demake in a lot of ways because it'd be like inferior graphics and stuff.
Yeah. Well, especially going from like console to like maybe the Atari. Like they
like
definitely had to drop.
Bringing a lot of games over to like the Atari 2600 would very much be a demake in a sense. Like Space Invaders, for example.
Yeah.
An arcade classic was brought over to Atari with a very, very faithful port, but it was very much a demake in a lot of ways.
Graphically, because
the 2600 was not impressive in the slightest.
No.
Yeah, there was a ton of them though. Like you'd see a lot of mostly arcade games. To me, though, one of the first real remakes, in my opinion, that really stuck out, in my opinion, was Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo.
Oh, okay.
Which were fully from the ground up remakes of Mario 1, 2, 3, and Lost Levels, which was the original Mario 2.
Huh.
They were remade with SNES style graphics, new sound, and slightly modified controls.
Oh, okay.
And they were very... Honestly, they're probably the definitive way to play those games, in my opinion. And what's fun is those games were all later remade further with the Advance series, which would remake Mario 2, World, and 3, plus Yoshi's Island for the Advance with even more added content. Which to me is always a really cool thing because you get to experience these games on new hardware with some usually quality of life improvements because all those games always came with like modifications that just made them better in a lot of ways or added story or just additional content. Especially Super Mario Brothers 3 for the Advanced series where like they added a whole bunch of e-reader levels. Remember the e-reader? Mm-hmm. But see, that was like one of the first remakes I could really think of, in my opinion. But moving on from that, we also get another very well-known remakes, Pokemon.
Yes.
So we talk about Pokemon a lot on this show.
We do.
Because we grew up with it. And one of the first, probably one of the most important remakes, in my opinion, of all time was Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Yep.
Because that was how me and Alex really experienced the original Pokemon titles.
Yeah, that was both of our first introduction to Pokemon.
Yep. Well, for me, it was Sapphire.
Yeah.
But
for me, Leaf Green was my first Pokemon game.
So those games are full-on remakes using the Ruby and Sapphire engine. of the original Pokemon. Well, technically, they're based off of the Red and Blue,
Red and Blue.
which were in themselves re-releases of the original Red and Green
Yeah.
Pokemon. And basically, they fit because as much as nostalgic as the original Pokemon games are, they are glitchy messes
Yeah.
that barely function at times.
Yep.
So these games literally took all the games that we knew and love and just made them look prettier, fixed the glitches, and used the much better battling mechanics of Gen 3.
Nice.
And it would start a trend in Pokemon where like every gen following would get remade.
Yep.
So then we'd move on to like Heart Gold, Soul Silver, the definitive remakes in my opinion.
Yeah.
Heart Gold and Soul Silver to this day are still some of the best Pokemon games ever made.
Yeah. It added so much content.
I know, and that says a lot too because Gold and Silver and Crystal themselves were such well-made games.
Yeah.
Like what made Gold and Silver fun was the fact that like you could once you finished the main game you could go to Kanto again.
Yeah.
And fight all the gym leaders that you previously fought.
Yeah.
But to fit on a Game Boy cartridge, they had to cut a lot of the stuff out.
Yeah.
The DS remake adds a lot of the stuff that was cut out back in.
Yeah.
Which just and expanded it. It had all sorts of bonus content, like explorable stuff. One of my favorite remakes of all time.
Yeah.
And then following that, we got Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. These were straight up like reimaginings.
Yeah.
Like, because now we're in 3D and they're adding so much stuff that like.
Oh yeah, because the Mega Evolutions at this point.
Kind of
still butthurt they got rid of them. Anyways.
And to me, like that was the last true remake of Pokemon because then we've harped on them enough. I don't think they're as bad as I said initially.
No, yeah, the Diamond and Pearl,
Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
And honestly, at this point, like if you've never played Diamond and Pearl, play the version on the Switch.
Yeah, just because you the only other way to play is to spend like $500 to play Platinum.
Yeah, or get an emulator. So just play the 3. They're not as bad as.
No,
we're just dramatic.
I felt like they were a step back compared to.
But those are definitely categorized as a remake because they did rebuild.
So actually, this is a great place to really talk about the difference between remakes. Like Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby to me are like reimagining remakes.
Yeah.
Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. That is just a straight up remake.
Yeah.
From the ground up.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious if they're going to remake Black and White, but who knows?
I kind of hope they don't.
So there's no...
Unless it's really good, do not touch that game.
Yeah. So
leave it alone.
For this thing...
Game Freak, I'm talking to you. Just kidding.
So for this episode, we're not really going through the history of remakes. We're kind of just going remakes in general and just moving around from different points.
Because there's a lot out there.
There is. And another one that I'd like to talk about is probably one of the greatest remakes of all time. Resident Evil.
Oh.
So Resident Evil on the GameCube. The game is just titled Resident Evil, but a lot of fans like to refer to it as Resident Evil Remake, with the RE highlighted because Resident Evil.
Yeah.
The Resident Evil Remake is a full-on from-the-ground-up remake of the original Resident Evil on the GameCube. And it literally... So the original Resident Evil is a landmark title for what it was, but at the same time, it's really goofy and it's not really scary because it's PlayStation graphics and the voice acting is the funniest thing ever.
Yes.
Don't open that door. Yeah. The remake, on the other hand, ground up GameCube graphics. Like, this game is scary as fuck. Like, it actually is terrifying.
It makes it scary.
Yeah.
Do they keep the same voice acting?
No.
No.
They have legit voice acting
Lame.
now. No, but there's like... This is like the definition of a perfect remake because it kept the same style. Like it was still like the tank controlled, like fixed camera points.
Yep.
But now it like actually like looks like a decrepit mansion, and like they added a whole bunch of backstory. And honestly, when this game came out, like people were immediately clamoring for a Resident Evil 2 remake because Resident Evil 2 is the most popular game in the series.
Yeah. Did it get one?
It did.
Yay!
Years later.
Oh. Yay, though! It did.
And here's where we get to my second definition of a remake, a reimagining remake. Because while I would say the first one also qualifies as a reimagining remake, it is very much based around the style of the first game. The Resident Evil 2 remake is borderline a new game.
Yeah.
So the Resident Evil 2 remake to me kind of came out of nowhere. Well, we all had been clamoring for it, but it was just one of those things that never happened.
Yep.
Then it got revealed, and we were like, whoa. So the Resident Evil 2 remake is based off of the modern style gameplay, like the over-the-shoulder third-person perspective.
Yeah.
It's borderline a new game, but my god, is it a really well-made game.
Nice.
Like, they made it basically modernized, and it's actually pretty scary.
Yeah.
At times. Super well-made, very much needed.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Garpy.
And it's, honestly, I think both versions of the game are worth playing, but this one was so well done, it stands on its own.
Wow.
And because of how successful it was, they immediately went and decided to remake 3 in the same style.
Oh.
The problem is 3 is a much shorter game, so the big complaint with the 3 remake was it was too short.
Ah. Yeah, but that's not valid. Because it was a short game to begin with.
It's still a great remake. But then we get into where I think they're going overboard now.
Oh.
Because they're also going to be, it was recently announced they'll be remaking Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was the game that introduced most of the changes that they took for this game.
Oh, okay.
So in reality, we're going to just be getting a more prettier looking game. But here's my problem with it. 4 doesn't look that bad nowadays. For the generation it was in, I think Resident Evil 4 was one of the best looking games of that era.
Oh, so you think it's going to be kind of like a Bowser's Inside Story?
No, because this is... fans will buy this.
Yeah.
And also, just, it's a game that I know will sell regardless.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. It's like, I don't have a problem with them remaking Resident Evil 4, even though I think it's kind of pointless.
Yeah.
My problem is that Resident Evil Code Veronica is getting ignored, and that game needs a remake way more than 4 does.
Yeah.
But this is besides the point, because it's Capcom and they're going to do whatever prints money.
Yeah.
Anyways, though, you had mentioned Mario and Luigi there.
Yes.
Here's another great example of a tale of 2 remakes.
Yeah.
We have a remake that was much needed and a remake that was not needed.
Yeah.
So Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga later got remade as Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions, which the Bowser's Minion add-on content is entirely pointless and stupid. But the remake of the game itself is phenomenal because it is a full-on from-the-ground-up remake of the original Superstar Saga, which at that point was a GBA game that was not easy to play anymore.
Yeah.
Like the easiest way to play it was, I think it was on the Wii U Virtual Console.
Yeah.
So a remake of that was really nice because it was bringing it back to a new generation.
Yeah.
And it was with modern graphics and all of the gameplay quality of life improvements.
Partners in Time was skipped though, right?
Yes. We'll get to that. So this remake, it didn't sell amazing, but it sold pretty well for remakes.
Yeah.
Especially compared to like the previous game, which was Paper Jam, which was it's a good game, but it's not amazing either.
Yeah.
So then, out of nowhere, they announced they were going to remake Bowser's Inside Story, which is admittedly the second most popular game in the series. And we've talked about this in the past on our Mario RPGs episode, but who asked for this?
Yeah, it didn't really need it because the game only came out not that long ago.
It came out 10 years prior to the remake's release.
But it was still playable. And still,
that's the key thing.
Yeah.
Bowser's Inside Story was a DS title that was fully backwards compatible with the 3DS.
Yeah.
It wasn't like...
It wasn't like there was no way of playing it.
Yeah, it wasn't like Superstar Saga, which was on hardware that was no longer
backwards compatible.
And it was also a very old game that wasn't easy to find.
Yeah.
And the worst part about this remake was it really didn't add anything new. The graphics weren't that much of a step up.
No.
And it actually runs worse somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, this remake sold so poorly that it literally bankrupted the studio that made it.
Yeah. You can listen more on our podcast.
Mario RPGs podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a very strong case of when a remake is not needed.
Yeah.
And incredibly unnecessary. So funny thing, going back to Super Mario All-Stars, there was also a Mega Man remake of a similar style at one point. And it was called Mega Man The Wily Wars. And The Wily Wars is fun because Wily Wars is fascinating because it was a Sega Genesis compilation of the first 3 Mega Man games. and it only released in America on this weird like it was a cable service called the Sega Channel,
Yep.
which would stream games to it via cable.
Hmm.
The 90s were fun. But it was only available in America via that method, and it never got a physical release over here, but it was physically released in Europe, in Japan. So these games were basically remade from the ground up using Sega Genesis graphics, and they don't play exactly the same. Like, they're not as good as the NES versions, but they were kind of fun. And they added this whole segment called the Wily Tower, which was like kind of like a custom set of levels where you could like add all these different weapons. You could pick the weapons you want, like the powers you want.
Yep.
And just play like these custom levels, which were great. That game also did get re-released on the Sega Genesis app on the Switch, which is nice because now you can play it easily.
Nice.
So what's fun about that is that remake. Like I brought that one up because I also thought about Mario All Stars.
Yes.
And when I'm thinking about trilogy remakes like this too, we also think about the Crash Bandicoot
I was
remakes,
gonna say that.
which those remakes are fucking great, by the way, because they literally are ground up remakes of Crash 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
Made by Vicarious Visions. They did a great job on them, based off the Naughty Dog classics we all know and love.
Yeah. Crash Bandicoot 1 is very hard.
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot, yes it is.
It is a very difficult game.
Yeah, and the remake actually made it easier, believe it or not. Crash 2 is pretty difficult too, if you really think about it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, those games are classics, and it was really nice it was just nice to see Crash come back.
Yeah,
And
because that also brought along a new Crash game after
Well, yeah, we
that,
got-
and Crash is back!
Well, he was back until Activision decided to put all their focus on fucking Call of Duty, like they always do. But yeah, like we said though, that those games were so well, they brought Crash back into the spotlight. We got not only a remake of Crash Team Racing,
Yeah.
another phenomenal remake,
Yep.
but we also got a brand new Crash game out of it with Crash 4. It's about time. And similar to Crash, Spyro also got a set of remakes.
Oh, yeah.
The Reignited trilogy, which remade the first 3 Spyro games originally developed by Insomniac. The remakes were handled by Toys for Bob, who had been developing the Skylanders series. And they did a very good job on the remakes. They're essentially like the Crash remakes, the same games, just prettier, and they arguably play better.
Yeah.
Which was really nice.
Nice.
And what's funny is we had kind of like an era of remakes recently with like a lot of them, like the SpongeBob remakes.
Yeah. And it also got them a new game too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, I believe it was called.
Yes.
Full on. So this was probably one of the straightest remakes ever because literally the game is identical to the original, just with much prettier graphics.
Yes.
But that's fine because it's just as fun as it was. The only thing that I didn't like was they didn't redo the voice acting. They literally lifted the original voice acting from the original game and just stuck it in there, so you still get off-brand Mr. Krabs, who it's very clearly not Clancy Brown. But that remake did so well that the studio that handled the remake actually got to make their own original SpongeBob game called The Cosmic Shake, which I've heard is actually really good. It's not as good as Battle for Bikini Bottom, but it's a good 3D platformer. But yes, it's funny how like remakes like that are a thing. So I guess now moving on to like RPGs again, the Final Fantasy remakes.
Yeah.
So Final Fantasy.
No more Popeyes.
No,
Popeye arm.
We'll get to that one. So Final Fantasy remakes have been a thing for a while because the games are always getting ported around.
Yeah.
The ones that I always think about though are like the PSP remakes in particular, which cleaned up the graphics and made them look like super clear and like HD looking. Particularly the one for 4. But 4 itself also got a remake on the DS, which was a full 3D reimagining of the game that made it significantly harder. But it was still a really fun game in its own right. And I guess moving on though now, one of the most highly desired remakes of all time, the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yes.
The 7 remake I have so many issues with though.
Oh no.
Well, it's just when it came to the 7 remake, this is kind of a mixed opinion because some people really like the direction of the remake and others don't. My problem with the remake is I just wanted the game just to look prettier.
Yeah.
And just be the same turn-based game it was. They did not go in that direction. They instead made it an action RPG and they split it up into multiple parts that we're going to have to continue to buy over the years.
Yeah.
And they also did the one thing that I did not want them to do,
Yeah.
which was change the story around.
Oh.
It's not majorly changed, but there's enough differences that I kind of am like, yeah.
Man, this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still going to play the rest of it, but as much as we wanted a 7 remake, I was very disappointed by the Final Fantasy 7 remake in a lot of ways. Like, it's not exactly what I wanted at the time.
But hey, he doesn't look like Popeye.
No. Yeah.
The Sailor Man, not the fried chicken. If you need clarification.
Yeah. Honestly, that and the fact that it's being released in like parts, I'm just kind of like,
that is annoying, I will say. Like that's annoying.
I feel like the Final Fantasy 7 remake has just it's gone completely above, like, it's gotten so out of control to the point where like they don't know what they want to do with it anymore.
Yeah.
Like they've built up this massive thing and now they're kind of stuck with it. But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
You want to hear a fun fact? Did you know that someone sang the Jigglypuff song on American Idol for their audition?
No, I didn't know
I
that.
saw a clip of it the other day.
I'm assuming they didn't get in.
Also, I have a present for you. Tomato soup.
Alrighty then. This joke was funnier the first time.
Drink the soup, Bill. You bought it a couple months ago.
I never
Drink
bought
it.
that one. I ate mine. You bought that.
Shit. I just got called out. You want some tomato soup? Here you go. Put it in your hood.
Get out of here.
Put it in your hood for a snack later. There you go. We have fun on this podcast. Well, originally I was going to surprise him with frosted mini wheats, but he caught me in the act of grabbing them from the kitchen. So I snuggly grabbed some soup instead.
Anyways, so getting back to remakes. So Ape Escape,
Ape Escape.
Sony's amazing monkey catching platformer series that they just pretend doesn't exist. Yeah.
Because fuck you, Sony. Give us Ape Escape. We want it back.
Hashtag Apes will escape. But anyways, Ape Escape 1 actually did get a remake at one point.
Yes.
Ape Escape on the Loose for the PSP. This remake is tragic in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's a fully graphical, like from the ground up remake. And it actually looks amazing for the PSP. And it's really cool to see a modern take on the original Ape Escape.
Yes.
The problem...
Dun, dun.
Ape Escape is a series that was designed to showcase the DualShock, the two dual analog sticks. What does the PSP not have?
2 dual analog sticks.
So the entire point of Ape Escape's gameplay completely lost in this remake.
Yep.
So instead of using the sticks to use the weapons, you instead have button presses, and it's very imprecise and not nearly as fun.
Aw.
Which is tragic because this remake is really nice. Like, everything else is so high quality. Unfortunately, this is a remake that should have been a Vita game.
Yeah.
Because...
it had dual analog sticks.
The PSP just, unfortunately, inherently was never a great place for this remake.
Aww.
Which is sad.
And how long was the gap between that game and the Vita being out?
A lot, because the
Ape
Escape on the Loose was a launch title.
Oh.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
Not a great launch showcase for the PSP, in my opinion.
Yeah. It seems, I mean, I guess people probably wanted Ape Escape, but at the same time, it's like, if you're going to choose a game that heavily relies on a certain set of controls and you don't have those controls, it's not going to be as good.
Yeah. That's the tragic part about that remake. Another remake that's incredibly tragic, in my opinion. You like Conquer, Alex?
I didn't realize it was tragic. Conker's Bad Fur Day.
So Conker's Bad Fur Day, everyone knows.
I know they took out the swearing.
They censored it, which takes away a lot of the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Conker's Bad Fur Day is like was famously Rare's big fu to the media,
Hmm.
where like they all made so it was originally supposed to be a more cutesy game called Conker 12 Tales,
Yeah.
and everyone just joked being like, oh, it's another cutesy platformer from Rare.
Yep.
So then Rare said fuck it and just made it raunchy and dirty as shit.
Yep. Like the Great Mighty Pooh
Yeah.
with his beautiful singing.
And the game sold like shit because it was a late N64 game, and Nintendo did not advertise it because it was completely against their principles
well,
at that
yeah.
point. So it sold poorly and it became a cult classic.
Yeah.
Well, after Microsoft bought Rare, so believe it or not, Rare only made 2 games on the fucking Xbox.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Rare was weird at this point. After the Microsoft buyout, they made like barely any games, and most of their games they made were on handhelds for the Game Boy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, the 2 games they made were Grabbed by the Ghoulies, which was originally supposed to be a GameCube game.
Yep.
It's a pretty average beat 'em up game. That's not awful, but it's also not amazing.
Yeah.
And then they made Conker Live and Reloaded, a full-on remake from the ground up of Conker's Bad Fur Day using the Xbox's hardware.
Yes.
This one to me is tragic because in terms of graphics and presentation, this game looks fucking great.
Yeah.
Like, it is a very pretty remake. Like, honestly, it's one of those points where I was always like, God, the Xbox looks so good, but
Yeah.
I was a Sony boy, so. The problem is, though, this game originally was supposed to be called Conker Live and Uncut,
yeah.
and it was supposed to be an expanded version that would kind of like, that was going to include all of this cut content from Conker's Bad Fur Day that was cut because it was too dark.
Oh, okay.
Well, at some point they switched the narrative and they made this one Conker Live and Reloaded, which was censored. Like all this, so the swears in Conker were censored to begin with,
Yeah.
but the minor swears like shit and stuff were
Yeah.
not. This one they heavily censored
Everything.
pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So like they'd replace the swears with like fart noises, which in some cases is funnier, but at the same time, I don't know. It kind of kills a lot of the.
Well, especially like where it was released, like on the was it the N64?
Somehow the N64 version is more dirty than the fucking Xbox version.
Like it's just, especially like when on the Nintendo console, which Nintendo was Nintendo, and Xbox I feel like, I mean, is a little different when it comes.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be more acceptable on that console because like Nintendo's kind of the kid console.
Yeah, I know.
And Xbox
That's
kind
why
of
that's why it's so baffling to me.
yeah.
They also changed the multiplayer, which is the other biggest critique with this game, because the N64 game had really fun multiplayer, and they kind of like changed it to this like live shooter thing, which was whatever.
Yeah.
So this remake's good, but it's also not as good as the N64 version, in my opinion. To the point where for the rare replay, I believe they only included the
old version,
the N64 version, which is funny. Because we also, talking about Rare, there were also a couple Rare remasters from this point. Not quite remakes, but definitive versions, because they actually remastered Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie
Yep.
along with Perfect Dark for the Xbox. And you can get them on the I think you can still get them on the Xbox Live Store. But those are the definitive versions of those games because they remastered them to run on the Xbox 360.
Yeah.
With like much smoother frame rates and like cleaner resolutions.
Nice.
Especially because Rare's N64 games by that point did not run particularly well.
Oh
Because
no.
the N64 itself had some serious hardware limitations at
Yeah.
times.
I mean the N64 does suck. So, you know, it makes sense, you know.
You just say this now because you think it's funny.
No, I mean, I truthfully believe the N64 is the worst console ever made. Fight me, everyone. It sucks.
Jerry's like in the background, like,
you can't make me like it. You have Buck Bumble.
at some point we're gonna get Jerry and Dave on to make you like it. But
No.
that's besides the point.
No.
Continuing on though, remakes. So
Is this a remake?
yes, that's actually a very good remake. So
Yeah.
moving on, Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
So that's actually like a reimagining in a lot of ways.
Oh, okay.
So Ratchet and Clank for PS4, the only Ratchet and Clank game to release on PS4, believe it or not,
Yep.
was made as a tie-in to the theatrical film that was coming out at the time.
Mhm.
So it is essentially so it's not a reboot, it's a reimagining spin-off in a way
Yep.
that takes the original Ratchet and Clank from 2002, and it remakes it from the ground up with all like the modern hardware, like fucking beautiful PS4 graphics. Like basically, it's a Pixar film.
Yeah.
And they redo the story though to be based more around the film. So it's technically a reboot in that sense, but the next game in the series after went back to the original continuity.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a one-off kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is a great remake though. Like it's better than the film it was based off of. That's for sure.
Womp womp.
But yeah, if you want to play a Ratchet and Clank game, I always say get the PS4 remake because it's so good.
Nice.
Trying to go think of some other ones that we could talk about. There was the Zelda remakes on
Yeah,
the 3DS.
for like Link's Awakening. Oh, I was.
There was that one too, but I was thinking of the 3DS remakes of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, which were amazing because they just prettied those games up. And as much as I think Ocarina of Time is pretty average for a Zelda title, especially because I just prefer Majora's Mask. It was really nice being able to play those games with better graphics and on a more powerful system.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, like you were saying, the Link's Awakening remake, that game is gorgeous.
I still need to finish that game. I bought
forgot-
that a while ago.
I forgot you bought that.
Yeah,
'cause
I need to finish that.
it's a fun little remake, though. I love games.
I
like
love
that.
how cute the graphics are.
Yeah, they are.
It's very cutesy, but I really like it.
Yeah, there's that one. I love like little things like that. They just look so good.
Yeah. I brought up during our little break. I brought up Persona 4 Golden, where if that is considered a remake. So I want to hear your thoughts.
That is not considered a remake.
I thought it wouldn't be.
So that's more of a expanded re-release
Okay.
because it's the same game as the original Persona 4. Like graphically, it's really not that much. They didn't really change any of the graphics.
Yeah.
What they did was they added a shit ton of content.
Kind of like Catherine. With
yeah.
the newest Catherine game.
So the newest Catherine is different because there's a reason why there's now Full Body and then Catherine Classic because they're like their own games at this point.
Oh, okay.
Full Body added a lot of new content that basically makes it a new game.
Oh, okay.
So that's not really a remake either. That's more of a reimagining, I'd say. God, Catherine Full Body was really good though. Catherine itself is a fun game just because it's so weird.
I guess a good question would be: is there any games that you out there that you think deserve a remake? Because I think everyone kind of has that list in their mind. So I'm curious to know what yours would be.
To me, games that need remakes are games that I think were flawed upon their original release and could use some serious like help.
Yes.
Like I'd said earlier, Resident Evil Code Veronica to me is a game that needs a remake because Code Veronica was released on the Sega Dreamcast and it did a lot of stuff like that was new for the series at the time. Like it was the first one not to use pre-rendered backgrounds. It used full 3D environments. But it hasn't aged particularly well because it was just such a ambitious game for the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like a remake would really help address a lot of that game's issues. Another game that I think could use a remake is Final Fantasy VIII. Rather than 7, because 7 inherently from a gameplay perspective is fine. It has graphically it needed help, but 8 on the other hand is a flawed game. And as much as I love 8, I could honestly see 8 getting a remake treatment better.
Yeah.
And 8 is a game though where I think the story actually could use a revamp because 8's story is complicated to say the least. So I'm trying to think of that. There's also
I've noticed that looking up remakes and then looking up games that people think need a remake, a lot of people tend to lead to a lot of these RPGs. Like one I found a couple of times is like the Parasite Eve franchise, which honestly looking back, I feel like that deserves a remake because I would love to see that with modernized graphics.
The problem with Parasite Eve is that technically Parasite Eve is a licensed game, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Because it is based off of a novel. That is why the third game is referred to as the third birthday,
Ah.
because they did not have the license anymore.
Hmm.
I would love to see Parasite Eve remade. The problem is I don't know if they can make it the same.
Hmm.
But yeah,
It
those
would
are.
have to be slightly different.
I would love to see a Parasite Eve. I'd like to see Parasite Eve come. Oh, medieval. Oh, this one actually is fun.
Yeah.
Medieval's been remade twice.
Oh, really?
Yes. So medieval, if any, yeah, sorry, Parasite Eve, medieval.
Medieval. It popped up when I was looking up stuff.
So medieval was a classic PlayStation platformer hack and slash game where you had to you played as a dead skeleton known as Sir Daniel Fortescue,
Yes.
and you basically had to go through a whole bunch of levels and stuff. It had 2 games. There was the first one and the second one, and then it kind of disappeared from the face of the earth,
Yes.
like a lot of old PlayStation franchises. Medieval, though, would later see a a remake in the form of Medieval Resurrection for the PSP, which was more of a reimagining than an actual remake in a lot of ways. Like to the point where the creators of the original were kind of like, it's cool to see he's still alive, but it's like it's not really him anymore in a lot of ways. That game was fine. It was another PSP remake it looked pretty, wasn't exactly the same quality as the original. But Medieval then had a shock, like, out of nowhere remake years later on the PS4, just called Medieval. That is a straight up remake from the ground up of the original.
Yeah.
And it is the best way to play Medieval now, just because it's so pretty to look at and it plays better in every way. I wish they made one for 2 as well.
I was also thinking of games that are not necessarily mainstream, but they did get full remakes. Yeah.
So I guess Alex is referring to games like Misao and Mad Father.
What would you call this? I'm brain farting on the
Indie
term.
games.
Indie games. That's it. Even indie games can get remakes.
Because those were originally just made on RPG Maker.
Yeah.
With limited graphical assets, and then they got budgets to make full-on remakes.
Yeah.
And those remakes are fun because they just basically make the games look better and are more accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
God, Misao. I gotta play that one again at some point.
No, yeah, I thought about it because I remember.
Well, yeah, because The Witch's House too got a full remaster like that as well.
Did?
Well, yeah, because the original was just an RPG Maker game, and then it got remade with better hardware later on, which is cool. That's the thing with remakes. It's like a lot of them come out because they're just necessary.
Yeah.
But then we get those unnecessary ones, like the Bowser's Inside Story. Because I mean,
Yeah.
Partisan Time completely skipped over.
Yeah.
Very polarizing game that honestly could have used a remake, in my opinion.
Yeah, because some people love it, some people hate it. I kind of wish it got a remake. I would have liked to see it. Because that one on the DS at that
it was as well,
but it was very early DS.
It was early DS, but it was just a polarizing game. Like I feel like they could have fixed some of it structurally.
But now that's probably not going to happen.
I don't even know if we'll ever see a freaking Paper Mario game again.
Yeah. Oh, I know that's one too. I saw a couple times where people wanted the original Paper Mario and A Thousand Year Door remade, but I don't really agree with Thousand Year Door because I feel like it still looks really good. Original Paper Mario is on the worst console in the world, so like I can totally understand why people.
I can't even tell if she's fucking joking half the time anymore.
It actually was starting to. I was being serious, but then I remembered it was on the N64, and I decided to just go along with it. but then I feel like that game would deserve a remake.
Another one that I was thinking about was Story of Seasons.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people know the Story of Seasons is just the continuation of the original Harvest Moon series.
Yep.
Because it's confusing now because there's a Harvest Moon series that exists now, but that's not the original Harvest Moon series.
No.
Basically, the company that published the original Harvest Moon was Natsume.
Yes.
But the company that made it was Marvelous.
Yes.
Marvelous decided they were going to publish it themselves. Problem is Natsume owns the trademark for Harvest Moon. So when Marvelous decided to release them on their own, they changed the name to Story of Seasons. Problem is, Harvest Moon was like Natsume's biggest seller.
Yes.
So they were like, shit, we need to keep making games because we need to make money. So they started making their own in-house Harvest Moon games, which are not nearly as good as the
Womp,
Marvel Story
womp,
Seasons games.
womp.
Yeah.
And that's why I play Story of Seasons.
So the fun thing about Story of Seasons is they've been remaking a lot of the classic games.
Yes.
Like they made the Mineral Town game.
Yep.
Which was a very well done remake, and they're now going to be remaking A Wonderful Life, which is the GameCube one that everyone loves.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to playing that
I
at some
wonder
point.
if they do an Animal Crossing remake of like original. I feel like no. But...
Nah, because I just feel like that would be pointless.
Meh.
I mean, because we already got.
Womp, womp, womp. You know what game deserves a remake? Crash Twinsanity, where they actually finish it.
The creator, actually, the guy who worked on that, like one of the main guys who worked on that game, actually said he really wanted to, but
Yeah.
I just don't think. Well, unfortunately, Activision.
Hey, you never know, because they surprised you with remaking the trilogy.
Yeah, but now Activision is like considered one of the worst companies
Have
ever made.
hope. Have
also,
hope.
Also, Activision's going through that Microsoft buyout drama right now, so
Womp, womp,
I don't know.
womp.
But yeah, I'm trying to think any other major ones. Like, is there a game that you'd like to see remade?
I'd like to see that. That's what I want to see remade.
True.
Oh, I want to see Lego Star Wars. I want to see Tiny Tank remade.
Lego Star Wars actually did get a remake.
Oh, it did?
In a sense.
I want to see Tiny Tank remade.
Lego Star Wars actually got the newest entry was called the Skywalker Saga.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a from the ground up, basically they made a new game based around the entire series.
Yes.
I did actually get the chance to play it though at my our good buddy Matt when I was visiting him recently. We played a bit of the new one.
I thought of a game I want a remake of.
Okay, we'll get there in a minute.
Yes.
But I was playing a bit of it. I'm like, this is so different from anything Lego Star Wars, and it was kind of like I don't like it. I really didn't enjoy it. So.
Yes.
But you were saying?
Yes, there's a game that I think deserves a remake. And do you know what that game is? Tigger's Honey Hunt. It deserves a remake. That game was so fun as kids. I want to replay it on the Switch. Tigger's Honey Hunt.
You just pulled that out of your butt.
I did. I just remembered it. Also, as I Googled it, this game kept popping up, which I don't know what it is, but it's not Tigger.
Yes. Yeah, but I'm thinking any other ones.
Would you like to see any of the Persona games remade?
Well,
would you like to see Hitler remade? Why is Hitler here?
Technically, that was a remake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the PSP versions were remakes of the original PlayStation versions. So supposedly 3 might be getting a remake.
Oh.
Which I'm interested in because 3, I think, is... The problem with Persona 3 is there's no definitive way to play 3.
Yeah.
Because both Persona 3 FES and Persona 3 Portable are flawed versions of the game, in my opinion.
They should remake Donkey Konga and then re-release the bongos so everyone can play it again. Yeah.
And other than that, though, I think we can probably break off here. We've talked about a whole bunch of them. I think, like, to wrap this up, the problem with remakes is it's like nobody really knows what they want remade.
Yeah. And then when stuff is remade, they're mad about it. No.
That's just gamers in general.
Yeah.
But yeah. Honestly, I hope the future remakes come out are all good. I'm looking forward to... I'm hoping like games like Final Fantasy VII Remake turn around and I can really enjoy them.
Yeah.
But yeah. Ooh, excuse me.
Gerpy.
Yeah, these energy drinks aren't great.
Womp, womp, womp.
Yeah. But anyways, guys.
Anyways. Here you go. Stay nice and warm.
This has been another episode of the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. The Gaming and Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify.
Wow, I'm surprised you're keeping this together.
And you can find all of our different links at Linktree/TheBarberGames, like your Twitter, Instagram, and all this fun.
Don't throw it! Don't throw it! Don't throw it! No!
But anyways, guys, once again, we will see you all next time. Alex is a train wreck as always. Here we go. You know it's true.
it's a Switch, bitch.